I want you to think about something specific. Sometime in the last few years, you probably had a conversation with your parents, or your spouse, or that one friend who reads personal finance books. And someone said out loud, with complete confidence, the most popular piece of financial advice in America: pay off your mortgage early, get rid of the debt, sleep better at night. And here is the thing: if you actually did it, if you actually sent that extra $500 a month toward your principal between 2020 and 2025, you lost about $47,000. Not on paper, not theoretically, in actual real-life money that should be sitting in your account right now, and isn't. And I know that sounds insane, because I grew up hearing the same advice from the same people, in the same voice. Debt is bad. Get rid of it as fast as you can. So when I first ran these numbers, I assumed I'd made a mistake somewhere. I ran them 3 more times. I asked a friend who works at a bank to check them. He didn't argue with me. He just smiled, a little, and said something I'm going to come back to at the end of this video, because it explains everything. So here's what I want to do for the next 9 minutes. I'm not going to lecture you. I'm not going to tell you mortgages are good or bad. I'm going to walk you through 3 things that happened to American mortgages between 1985 and 2020 that completely flipped the math. The advice your parents gave you was correct. The world it was correct for stopped existing while they were giving it. And nobody updated the script. By the time we're done, you're going to look at your mortgage statement very differently. You might also be a little annoyed at the person who first told you to pay it off early. That is fine. They didn't know. Okay, let's go. In 2020, the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate hit roughly 3%. Homeowners who paid an extra $500 per month toward their principal believed they were doing the smartest possible thing with that money. By the end of 2025, those same homeowners had paid off their mortgage faster. They had also, on average, missed out on approximately $47,000 in opportunity cost compared to investing the same money in a basic index fund. The advice they followed was wrong. And the advice they followed is the same advice that almost every financial guru, parent, and bank loan officer in America will repeat to you with complete confidence. The difference between right and wrong here has nothing to do with luck, nothing to do with timing the market, and nothing to do with sophisticated investing strategies. It has everything to do with one structural fact about what a mortgage actually is when inflation is positive. A fact almost nobody has explained clearly until now. The popular advice about mortgages is simple and emotionally satisfying. Debt is bad. Pay off your debt as fast as you can. The faster you own your home outright, the better. That advice is, in a narrow sense, sometimes correct. But it was originally formulated in a different financial environment, when mortgage rates were 9 to 12%, when investment returns were uncertain, and when most people had no easy access to diversified investing. None of those conditions are true anymore. The advice never got updated. The result is that millions of Americans are making one of the largest financial decisions of their life, based on a rule that mathematically inverted around 2008, without anyone telling them. So it is time to learn how money works, to find out why paying off your mortgage early might be the most expensive financial decision you ever make. Okay, so the first thing to understand is that a mortgage is not just debt. It is a long-term contract where you borrowed money at a fixed price in exchange for the obligation to repay that money over the next 15 to 30 years. The critical word in that sentence is fixed. Your mortgage rate does not change with inflation. Your mortgage payment does not change with inflation. But the dollars you use to pay it back are quietly worth less every single year that passes. If inflation runs at 3%, the real cost of your mortgage payment shrinks by 3% every year. The dollars you owe in year 20 are worth dramatically less than the dollars you borrowed in year 1. This is not a small effect. A $300,000 mortgage taken out today will be repaid with dollars that are worth roughly half as much. By the time the loan is paid off, you did not just borrow money. You borrowed inflation-protected money at a price that was locked the day you signed. And inflation has been working for you, silently, every day since. Which brings us to problem number 2. A mortgage at a fixed rate of 3 to 4% in an economy where inflation runs at 3% is effectively a near zero cost loan. And in some years, when inflation runs above your mortgage rate, the loan has been mathematically negative cost. The bank is paying you to borrow money. This is not a strange edge case. Between 2021 and 2023, inflation in the United States exceeded average mortgage rates for nearly 30 consecutive months. Anyone holding a low fixed rate mortgage was being subsidized by their bank in real purchasing power terms. Now, think about what you are doing. When you pay extra principal on that mortgage, you are taking dollars that are worth full value today and using them to retire debt that was going to be paid back with dollars worth less tomorrow. You are paying the most expensive money you will ever earn to retire what is structurally the cheapest debt available to anyone in your lifetime. The bank loved it when you did that. They loved it because you just handed them back money that they would have happily continued lending to you at a price they will never offer again. And this brings us to the third problem, which is the one that compounds the other two and reveals why this is not just a small mistake. Money has an opportunity cost. Every dollar you put toward extra mortgage principal is a dollar you did not put somewhere else. And the somewhere else for most people is the stock market. The historical real return of a basic S&P 500 index fund, adjusted for inflation, has averaged roughly 7% per year for over a century. If your mortgage rate is 3% and your alternative investment returns 7%, every dollar you put toward principal costs you the difference. That gap, compounded over a 20 or 30-year mortgage, becomes shockingly large. A homeowner who paid an extra $500 per month toward a 3% mortgage between 2020 and 2025 finished paying off their home faster. That same homeowner, if they had invested the same $500 per month in an index fund, would have approximately $47,000 more in net worth, and that gap continues to compound. Every single year, they would have kept that investment. The intuitive feeling that paying off debt is responsible turns out to cost almost a year's salary over the lifetime of a single mortgage. Now here's the part nobody at any bank really wants to say out loud. The banks know this math. They know it better than you do, which is exactly why almost every mortgage in the United States allows extra principal payments at no penalty. Banks did not include that clause out of generosity. They included it because they ran the numbers and discovered that the people who pay extra principal voluntarily hand back the most profitable long-term asset the bank had on its books. A locked-in 3% mortgage in an inflationary economy is one of the worst assets a bank can hold. They would much rather have that money back. To lend out at current rates of 7%. When you pay extra principal, you are not punishing the bank. You are saving them. The system isn't broken. It is working exactly as designed for the people who designed it. The fact that millions of Americans voluntarily surrender their most powerful financial asset because they were taught it was the responsible thing to do is not a bug. It is the entire reason banks let you do it. So when your parents tell you to pay off the house as fast as possible, they are not lying exactly, but they are operating on advice from a financial era that ended decades ago. Their math was correct when mortgages cost 11% and investing was difficult and uncertain. Your math is different. Your low fixed rate mortgage is the cheapest loan you will ever access in your life. The harder you work to retire it early, the more efficiently you destroy your own future wealth by trading appreciating dollars for depreciating debt. That is not a personal failing. That is the math of an economy that redesigned the value of debt without telling anyone the rules had changed. If you want to understand which other piece of common financial wisdom quietly stopped being true in your lifetime, go and watch this video next. And don't forget to like and subscribe to keep on learning how money works.